The U.S. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcasts content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio, and we're also streaming live on Facebook.com/Arab News.
And good morning, everybody. This is Ray Hanania. I am here May 19th on WNZK AM 690 radio and in Detroit, and WDMV AM 700 radio in Washington, D.C., just trying to get everything all together. The technology always just comes crashing from every direction. I want to make sure that we're live on Arab News, but unfortunately, I think we're live on my Facebook page at RG Hanania, facebook.com/RG Hanania, which I posted on the Arab News Facebook page so they can connect there. I'm not even sure why that happened, but of course, it always happens at the last section. Today's radio show features a look at journalism in Palestine and Israel conflict, and in the United States later on, with some interesting issues in our second segment. But our first segment, I want to welcome our guest, Palestinian journalist from Ramallah, Mohammed Najib. Mohammed, welcome to the show. I see you on. How are you?
Hi, Joe. Hi, Ray. Thank you.
Doing good. How is everything? You had texted me some information real fast there about being the first day and how many days that that the media was able to come in, the foreign press.
Yeah, at this ongoing mini war, the IDF didn't allow the international media, the foreign press, entry to Gaza since the start of this mini war for 9 days, and today was the first day that they allowed the foreign correspondents to enter Gaza Strip to cover this war. More than that, everyone watched and followed the bombing of Al-Jala Tower in Gaza, where is the Associated Press headquarters there, and Al Jazeera satellite TV on allegations that Hamas is based at that platform, at that tower, but all the reports from Gaza denied that. So yesterday night also, journalist Yusuf Abu Hussein from Gaza has been killed by bombing his house. Wow. So the journalists are victims of this war, different from the previous war. More than this, also, the IDF international spokesperson has intentionally misled the foreign press by gathering them for a press briefing, allowed them to photograph and to film the gathering of Israeli artillery and tanks, and said, we are going to start the ground invasion of Gaza, the military operation, the ground operation. And it was just a mislead for them to allow Hamas fighters to go in the underground tunnels to bomb them. And after that, we complained at the Foreign Press Association to the IDF why they mislead and use that foreign media in this trick, and they apologize for that. So this war, the media seems as a victim of the violence on both sides.
Yeah, we're going to focus on some of that. And we're just joined by my friend Andrew Friedman. Andrew was the former editor at the J-Post, the Jerusalem Post, and I think Yedioth Ahronoth, Ynet News. Is that correct, Andy? Ignacio first, because I know his time is limited this morning. Ignacio Miguel Delgado is the MENA representative for the Committee to Protect Journalists. Ignacio, thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Ray, and thank you very much for hosting us. It's a pleasure.
No, I'm happy to do that. Give us a little sense of, we wanted to focus this morning on what's happening to journalists in the conflict between Israel and Palestine. How are they doing? We saw one of the buildings was targeted in Gaza. I heard a second one was. So the media seem to be having a rough time there. What's going on with them?
Yeah, the situation right now for journalists in the Gaza Strip is very dire. So right now they are either covering the news and covering the airstrikes and military operations, or running for cover because they have nowhere to hide. So far we have documented the destruction of at least 18 media outlets. There may be more, but so far, like, that's what we documented. 3 buildings hosting and housing these media outlets, production companies, broadcasters were bombed to the ground. And well, the justification for that by the Israel Defense Forces was that Hamas was using these buildings for military purposes. But so far we haven't seen any evidence of that activity. And yeah, we would like to see that if that's the case.
You were just saying that there are several locations. I only heard of 2: the building, the Al Jalaa building, where AP was based. Then there was another one, I think, the next day, building. But you're suggesting more than 2, right?
Yeah, a few days before the bombing of the Al Jalaa building, there were 2 buildings, the Jawhara building and the Al Shuruq building, who were housing several local and media outlets. So Al Mamlaka channel from Jordan, for example. Others were housing the Hamas affiliated Al Aqsa TV. Others, yeah, there were plenty of local media outlets. And the problem is that with the destruction of these buildings, many journalists have lost their equipment because they were given like some time to evacuate the building. But they, of course, couldn't take everything with them, all their broadcasting equipment, cameras and such. So many journalists are deprived right now of the tools to do their job properly.
All right. And you have data, I know, and again, I know your schedule's tight. You can only do a few minutes with us, but how bad is this conflict on journalists per se? I mean, we've seen, I know that the Committee to Protect Journalists keeps a tabulation of journalists injured, journalists killed all over the world. I know your area is the Middle East and North Africa. How bad is it in the Middle East? How bad is it in this region of Israel and Palestine?
Well, in Gaza, like historically, like we have seen like at least 18 journalists have been killed since CPJ started collecting records in 1992. This conflict, like we woke up today to the news of the killing of one of the journalists, but we had at least another 3 journalists who were injured while covering the airstrikes in Gaza.
Wow.
But yeah, the region in itself, it's one of the most dangerous regions for journalists. Actually, like we have like the ongoing conflict in Syria. We have seen like historically in Iraq many deaths of journalists. So we can say like this is.
And does the CPJ, the Committee to Protect Journalists, protest to the government and the militants or the organizations involved when these reports come in?
Yeah, sorry, Ray, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, in addition to documenting and tabulating everything, I assume you protest officially to them.
We do. Like we usually reach out like to the involved parties for comments, at least to know like the reasons for their actions. But most of the time, like most of our calls go unheard because what we call is for journalists to be able to do their job freely and safely. And sadly, this is something that it's not happening at all in the Gaza Strip these days.
All right, Ignacio, listen, thank you so much for joining us. I know, again, you were on a very tight schedule, so much going on in that region. We appreciate all the work that the Committee to Protect Journalists does at cpj.org, I believe is your website. Ignacio Miguel Delgado. Thank you, Ignacio, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Ray.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk with 2 of our journalists from Israel and Palestine. These are veteran journalists who cover a lot that's going on, very objective, very focused on the facts. And although it's got to be tough at times like this for both sides, Israeli and Palestinian, Mohammed Najib, he's a freelance journalist from Ramallah. He's been with the New York Times, the Washington Post, and Jane's military publication. We also have Andy Friedman, who he was a former op-ed editor at the Jerusalem Post and a former editor at Yedioth Ahronot newspaper, Ynet News. I worked with him many years. He's covered Israel and the Palestinian world, from the Haram al-Sharif, or the Temple Mount, to nondescript mosques and synagogues, from the Knesset to the Muqadda. And now he is the founder of Efrat debate workshops, where they have platforms for adolescents and teenagers to develop logic, argumentation, and listening skills. His website is Andy Friedman, ANDYE Friedman.com. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take our first break, and we'll be right back with our guest right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you.
While we've been staying safe at home, scientists have been on a journey. The destination, a COVID-19 vaccine. This journey began decades ago with research into other coronaviruses. Scientists built from there with months of research and development, cooperation with other experts worldwide, and clinical trials on tens of thousands of volunteers of diverse race, age, and health status. They arrived at a safe, effective vaccine, and hundreds of thousands in Michigan have already been vaccinated. But the next step is ours. We need to get the vaccine when we can. Keep wearing masks correctly and taking precautions until we reach our destination, freedom from COVID-19 and getting back to the lives we love. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Life is a nonprofit charity that's provided humanitarian aid and development to people and communities for 25 years, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Please help improve these efforts. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain. The U.S. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcasts content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio, and we're also streaming live on Facebook.com/Arab News.
And welcome back to the Ray Hanania Show, Wednesday, May 19, 2021, talking about the challenges facing journalists in the Israel-Palestine conflict and the latest flare-up in East Jerusalem, Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood, and in the Gaza Strip. With me are Mohammed Najib, a war correspondent, defense analyst in Ramallah, Palestine, and Andrew Friedman, a longtime veteran Israeli journalist, former op-ed editor at the Jerusalem Post, and also later at Yedioth Ahronot, and also the founder of the Efrat debate workshops. Andrew, thank you so much for joining. And, you know, radio isn't anything if it isn't whatever comes flying at you in every direction as I'm trying to get the show going. So thank you for joining us. Move over. We want to have you move over because I see you're there. We want to get your face. There you go.
Sorry, I'm in a cramped space.
All right. You're not in a you're not in a bunker or anything, are you?
I happen to be in a safe room, but not because of that, but because that's where I have my that's why I have my recording studio.
and tell us the Israeli side from the journalist perspective of what's happening. Give us that perspective, then we'll get Mohammed to talk, and we'll see if we could you know, engage this. Go ahead, Andy.
Sure. I think from a journalist perspective, it's not really any different now than from any other perspective. In other words, if I were in Northern Ireland, I don't have a horse in that race, right? And so I can cover it objectively. I can say what I see and leave it at that. Nobody doesn't have a horse in the Israel-Palestine race. As soon as anything happens, people automatically and instinctively sink back into what they quote unquote know to be true, or what they feel very strong to be true. That's, you know, usually our team versus their team mentality, our tribe versus their mentality. And so it's very, very difficult to know what's really going on. I'll give you an example. Not from now, but from several years ago. A young Palestinian man who I've known for a long time and was in his teenage years very much a stone throwing, perhaps Molotov cocktail throwing young Palestinian from an Arab village near Hebron. He was arrested by the Israeli army for throwing stones. I don't know anything 100% because I wasn't with him.
Right.
But were it to be true at this stage, I'd be pretty surprised.
Right.
Right.
But we're dealing with governments, right? I mean, even if it's the Palestinian or the Israeli government.
And so what happens?
Both sides are promoting stuff. Go ahead.
No, of course. So what happens here is, in every case like that, the army says it was a terrorist, he was throwing rocks or whatever it is, and don't worry about it. We'll investigate, and we'll tell you how certain we are of that. The problem is that the Palestinians, no matter who it is, and no matter what happened, they say, nah, didn't happen. Person was innocent, right? The army is out to victimize.
Right. But don't we hear that from both sides? Don't we?
No, that's exactly my point.
Yeah.
When the army always says, no, we got the right guy, and we certainly didn't overreact. And when the Palestinians say there's no such thing as an IDF overreaction, almost by definition, whatever they do is out of bounds, is an overreaction. And so then it's hard to know how to report that.
And tell me, because we were talking about the media has been targeted, at least, you know, regardless, they've been hit in Gaza. Several buildings. We just heard the Committee to Protect Journalists say that it wasn't just two big buildings. It's been like maybe a half a dozen or more that have been targeted. What's your take on that? Is Israel's military or is its government trying to target journalist centers? I know they're calling ahead of time, but it looks like they're trying to take out the media voice in Gaza.
Yeah, I'd be hesitant to go down that road. It is true that many Israelis and many Israelis of the stripe that populate the current government, for better or for worse,
right,
such as it is, it's certainly true that many Israelis feel an unrepentant hostility from the media. However, I find it difficult to believe that the army is going after
intentionally
the media, and for a couple of reasons. First of all, intentionally. First of all,
right.
I think the army's got better, in inverted quotes, right, better things to do, but also because, and it goes back to what I was saying before, with all due respect to Ignacio, right? And
right.
I've read Ignacio's reporting for a long time, and he's an excellent reporter. The reality is, though, if the buildings in question, if they were under the use or in the use of Hamas,
right,
as rocket launching stations or whatever it is, I don't think he'd be free to report that. And if he did, he wouldn't be able to go back to Gaza to report anymore, and quite possibly his news outlet wouldn't be able to report that either.
Boy, that's very cynical, Andrew. It makes me feel bad. Let's ask Mohammed Najib. You're in Ramallah. We have a lot of contacts out there in Gaza, and I mean, I know from your standpoint, this conflict didn't start in Gaza. It started in Sheikh Jarrah with the protests and the violence by the settlers there. Tell us your take on, is the media being targeted, do you think, by the Israeli military? Is that your feeling or sense?
I think in this conflict, Israel feel the media is not at its side, and for this reason, they don't care to help the media. I think I covered the three previous mini wars between Hamas and Israel in 2008 and 9, in 2012 and 2014, but didn't witness restrictions on the media like this way. Yesterday, I was talking to a Palestinian journalist who was working for The Guardian and The Washington Post in Gaza. And when I asked him about his safety, he said the most important things that we suffer is the internet availability, because the Israelis destroy the internet network from the first bombing, and the journalists in Gaza even cannot do the work they do. Some of them try different difficult ways how to get access to the internet, which is the basic issue for journalists to do their work. Other restrictions are problems. For example, because the Israeli restrictions of the COVID-19 or the corona, many international journalists are trying to come to Israel to go to cover this conflict in Gaza, but they can't. Today, I called by one from the BBC who's in Jordan. He has a British passport. He cannot come to Israel. He will try to come through the West Bank. Another one from Al Ghad TV in London came here and tried to go to Israel. It took him like 1 week to get a permit to go there. So the issue is very difficult. And surely it was started in the Sheikh Jarrah during Ramadan and Damascus Gate and Al-Aqsa. And the media at that time was in the winning or showing the in favor of the Palestinians that time. But when the war erupted between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, then all the focus went there and the media has to go there. But it was restrictions. So for the first 9 days, no international media were able to cross through air checkpoint to the Gaza Strip or to provide logistics or support their teams, working teams inside Gaza. Besides the other logistics things, like there is no internet and safety to move, because this time it's not just when they go to the conflict zone, it's they are targeting the headquarters. And I know the Associated Press, Joseph Hiderman, bureau chief in Jerusalem, I don't think he will tolerate or accept to have an office in a building that one of Hamas visit, not just to have an office there or a base. And every time they come with different allegations. Sometimes they said it's a operation room. Sometimes they said a rocket launcher. Sometimes they said it's a spying room. But
So you think that you think the IDF is targeting the journalists to kind of suppress the coverage a little bit, because the violence is all over the social media, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter. Do you think they're doing it, or do you think they just don't care about who they hit?
Let me ask you a question. If I am a victim that Hamas used the building, I have an office there and they have an office, why the IDF should also become a second victim twice for the IDF again? And here also the foreign journalists were a victim of the IDF deliberately and intentionally when they asked them to film and to photograph the gathering of some IDF tanks and said this is to start the ground military operation of Gaza. They broadcasted that was a trick to let Hamas fighters go inside the underground tunnels to bomb them later. But that was a bad reputation for the journalists because we found ourselves, we are a part of the IDF propaganda or the trick. This is endanger our life in the future and lose our credibility. So if Hamas you misuse or mislead the AB or the Al Jazeera and have a secret office at the building, and that's a victim. A victim, you have to warn him, tell him, be careful. There's Hamas using you as a shield, not to be a victim twice, because I don't think they learn about that and will accept to be in a building that Hamas use it or could be targeted because it has any connection with Hamas.
And Andy, I want to go back to Andy. I know you're Israeli, and I've known you for years. You've been a great guy, and these are tough issues and tough questions, and I know you can handle them. Do you really honestly believe that the Israelis didn't target those buildings, that they didn't think of the media side, or they really believe that would the AP actually operate from a building that Hamas was operating from openly? It just didn't seem justified to hit that building. Do you really think it was justified?
Don't know. I'm not a military correspondent, or at least anymore. And right. It goes back to what I said before. I have absolutely no. Sorry, that's overstated.
No, that's all right.
I don't have a lot of confidence in the military's justification, and I don't have a lot of confidence in the Palestinian side
to get the
accusations.
So you don't have any confidence in the whole reporting from the whole issue.
Well, I find it, again, because I find that Israelis and their supporters, or perhaps I should say, and our supporters, but Israelis and their supporters, for them, the story is absolutely clear. Small Jewish country, attacked by rockets. What do you want them to do?
Right.
And from the Palestinian perspective, and for the Palestinians and their supporters, it is equally clear. Occupied country, under attack in Jerusalem and in Gaza and other places. What do you want them to do?
But I'll tell you, I'm in the U.S., I'm Palestinian in the United States, and I slam the government all the time here, all the time. And I think that Israelis should be able to slam their government all the time also. Do Israelis kind of get rounded up in a conflict like this and close their eyes to Netanyahu's government? And I know you're not a political reporter, doing this anymore, but do they all do that? Do they just say, hey, this is us against the world? I find that hard to believe that that's how Israelis find themselves in a conflict like this.
I think there are two separate points to what you were saying. One is the government piece of it, and one is the media piece of it.
Right.
I think all you have to do is read the Israeli press to get a very strong sense that the media has absolutely pilloried Netanyahu. They've absolutely taken apart, especially in Hebrew.
Right. Well, he's been under indictment for 3 criminal acts, but I'm talking about the way he oversees the military. I mean, for example, policies like censoring. Are you forced to censor when you write about foreign policy? Do you have to submit your stories to the censor?
It's an absolutely ridiculous, antiquated system. The simple answer to your question is yes, I do.
Wow.
And a reporter for the BBC or for the ABC or for CNN or anybody else,
they all do.
No. Well, officially they do.
Right.
Excuse me. Except
you learn how to navigate around it, is what you're saying.
And it's antiquated because there's no such thing as censorship anymore.
Right.
You said it yourself a second ago. There's Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and a million different things. There's no censorship.
Right. So it's pointless. Let me just go to Mohammed and ask him, when you write something, do you have to get it reviewed before it can be published or submitted to your news media, Mohammed?
By the Israelis or by the Palestinian Authority?
Well, that's true. I mean, are the Palestinian Authority also censoring you? Are the Israelis censoring you? Are the Palestinian Authority censoring you?
As a defense and security correspondent, I'm covering the Israeli security. I do care myself that my role is to report, not to reveal secrets or endanger others.
So you self-censor. You self-censor.
When I talk to IDF officials and security officials and write the story, I sometimes review the point to make sure that there is no secret that will endanger the security, because it's not the job of the journalist to endanger the country's security or to reveal something they don't want, to explain to me the situation. So I don't think there's a big problem in that. There is, it's going smoothly, and there is that's a problem. But with the Palestinian Authority is weak, and this is an advantage of the journalists. But they wish to have what they call self-censorship. For example, if after you publish, if they didn't like it and they suffer because of that, they can punish you in different ways. Then when they punish you, other journalists will learn the lesson and not to do the same in that time. But also they control the information. They don't let us know what's going on. We have a lot of difficulties to access to the information. I can access the information from the Israeli side, the Israeli security, more than access to for the Palestinian, because here they don't let you know just what they want. Sometimes the maximum what we get is to follow a tweet from Hussein al-Sheikh on the Twitter and to know what's going on, that Biden called Abbas. This is the way that how we learned about it. So there is no to call them and ask them, or to send the WhatsApp message as we do with the IDF spokesperson to ask them what's going on, and they get back to us or arrange or response or put us on the list to update it or a briefing all the time. So I think Israel is smarter in handling and dealing with the foreign media than the Palestinian Authority does.
Yeah, we need 4 hours to do this. We got to take a quick break, and I want to come back to our journalist guests, Andy Friedman, Israeli journalist, and Mohammed Najib, Palestinian journalist, just talking about the media aspect of this terrible conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take a break, and we will be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you.
Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. Game days with your favorite sports teams. And the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful, because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali Al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali Al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights.
Are your hands feeling numb? Do you feel pain opening up a jar, turning a key? Are you noticing that your elbow and your shoulder are becoming stiff? Or were you recently injured in your arm? Hello, I'm Dr. Al-Majid Katranji, and at the Katranji Hand Center, which just recently opened down the street from the Somerset Mall, we can provide you with the latest in hand, wrist, elbow, and shoulder care. Visit us at www.katranjihandcenter.com to learn the latest techniques that we have to offer you, and I look forward to taking care of you.
Visit us in Troy at 1565 West Big Beaver Road, Building F, or call Katranji Hand Center for an appointment at 248-869-4263. That's 248-869-4263. The U.S. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcasts content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio, and we're also streaming live on Facebook.com/Arab News.
Normally streaming live at Facebook.com Arab News, but right now streaming live at Facebook.com/RG Hanania. But we will be on the Arab News Facebook page. I am Ray Hanania. I got two great guests, and we only have a few minutes, so I want to ask one big question of both our guests, Andy Friedman, an Israeli journalist, and Mohammed Najib, a Palestinian journalist. I know how tough it is for both of you. You're in the middle of the conflict. You got pressures from all sides. Is it possible to be journalists in this conflict as Israelis and Palestinians? And can you say something critical of your side? Let me start with Andy. How do you respond to that question?
That is a fabulous question. That is a fantastic question. Can Israelis accurately cover this, and can Palestinians cover this?
Right.
And my simple answer to that is I don't know. I don't know because of everything that we've said up to now.
What's the worst you could say about Israel? And I'll ask Mohammed the same thing about Israel's military approach to the media.
Israel in general, I think, feels under attack from the international media. I wouldn't go so far as to put it that most of Israel feels that the media is an enemy. There's a small section of Jewish Israel that does think that. And unfortunately, you've seen.
But you can't criticize them. You can't.
No, it's not only that.
Will they shut down your internet and censor you if you say something too critical?
They will not shut down my internet or censor me.
All right.
I think Israel has. I think the military for Israel has become Israel's become too quick to turn to the military, and too reticent to employ a sober-headed diplomacy. I'm not sure that I've said that before.
Right.
This time I think that that's true, and I think armies will be, they don't like criticism. And I think Israel would do itself a favor, not just now. I think in general, I think Israel would do itself a favor to have an independent review process for complaints made against the military. Right. I don't know if that's the absolute worst thing that I could say, but it's certainly
that's critical. I think that's relevant. That's fair. And Mohammed,
it's relevant now.
And Mohammed, what's the toughest thing you can say about the way the military, the Israeli and the Palestinians, are treating the media there in this conflict? Are you under pressure from the Palestinians to be pro-Arab?
I can say after those years in journalism, the most difficult job to be here is to be a journalist, because according to the Palestinian culture and somehow to the Israeli culture, they ask, you are pro us or against us? And I tell them why I should be classified or defined to be with you or against you. I am not against you. I am not pro anyone and against anyone. So all the time, the Palestinians expect you be like their spokesperson. The Israelis also accused you before. One of the times I did a story about settlers, and I contact settlers to talk to his boss in the West Bank. And since he saw my name is Mohammed, it was a surprise for him. And he told me, please be honest. And I asked him, why you predicted that I will not be dishonest before we start? Did you read my reports? Did you approve that I am? So it's like start by judge you by the name, not by it. One of the times I went with the IDF, senior IDF commander, and he saw on my chest the name is Muhammad. So he knows that I am, he wants to know if I'm Israeli Arab or a Palestinian. He didn't imagine that I am from the West Bank, from Ramallah. He thought maybe I am from Israeli Arab. Then he asked me, where did your parents born? To know if from where are you? So everyone has his own to ask why you are should bias and judge. But I say that after those years, it's become more acceptable. And today I covering the Israeli security and the defense, Israeli defense more easier. And the Israelis also understand better than before that as an independent journalist, professional journalist, you can talk to Hamas, you can talk to whoever you want, you can go to Iraq, wherever. I don't face any troubles because of that, but it takes time to make sure that you are a professional journalist, that you are aware not to threat the security, and I have no intention and ever have an intention to threat the Israeli security. So when they conclude that you are a professional and will not form any threat on the security, they handle you as any other international journalist.
Mohammed, I just want can I add one small?
Go ahead, Andy. Go ahead. Real quick.
Mohammed, I've had the exact same experience in Hebron and in Beit El, where the very fact that I was a journalist covering a story, I've been asked, regardless of the kippah that I wear, I've been asked multiple times, just please, can I trust you to be honest? Can I trust you to accurately report what I say to you?
Yeah.
And that, at least that small piece of the puzzle, I don't think is related to Muhammad's being Palestinian or me being Israeli or anybody else. I think it's related to an overall feeling that the media is against us in parts of Israel and maybe even many parts of Israel.
I have to say, I do not envy either of you to be in the situations you are at, considering the pressures that you both feel. I want to thank Mohammed Najib for joining me, Andy Friedman. Thank you guys for joining me this morning. I wish we had 4 hours because this discussion really deserves so much more time. We will talk again. All right, you guys?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ray.
Thank you both. I appreciate it. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take our final break. When we come back, we got Tarek Ali Ahmad, who's going to talk about a new breaking story in Washington, D.C. It's really kind of shocking, and it's directly about the media. I'm Ray Hanania. We'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com. News that matters to you.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Enjoy the first Syrian-style cuisine in Michigan. At Damas Cuisine and Catering, you'll find a wide selection of Syrian foods and sweets in our menu, like frikeh, hoisin, grape leaves with steak, mishawi platter, hot mahashi, char-grilled kebab, shawarma, and much more. Get super fast delivery from Damas Cuisine and Catering right to your door. Order online at damascuisine.com/menu and track your order live. Damas Cuisine and Catering, 28841 Orchard Lake Road in Farmington Hills. Call 248-987-4985.
When you're looking for the best in optical care, Dr. Ahmad Nakash is your doctor to see. With years of experience and thousands of successful procedures performed, you can trust your eyes to Dr. Ahmad Nakash. See Dr. Ahmad Nakash and his professional staff for your eye care needs. There's 2 locations to serve you. In Hazel Park, call 248-336-3937. 248-336-3937. In Rochester Hills, call 248-299-3937. That's 248-299-3937.
The U.S. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcasts content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio, and we're also streaming live on Facebook.com/Arab News.
And welcome back. I'm Ray Hanania with my guest. What a great friend. I love reading his stories. Tarek Ali Ahmad. Tarek, thank you for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Ray, for having me, and thank you for your kind words.
Oh, that's right. Can you imagine being an Israeli or Palestinian journalist trying to cover this terrible conflict going on and the pressures that are on both of them? I know them both. They're both good people, but I know that they're both under intense pressure to kind of side with the different sides. It's hard to get right at the accuracy, but I'll tell you, you hit an accurate story that really, wow. This is a wow story. I saw it in the Arab News newspaper this morning. Tell us about this, the inconvenient truth of Jeff Bezos. What is that all about? Remind us what happened.
Well, basically, Ray, as you know, back in 2020, news about back in 2019, there was news about Jeff Bezos's extramarital affair with Lauren Sanchez that came out. And soon afterwards, Jeff Bezos actually blamed Saudi Arabia and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for this leak to the National Enquirer. Basically, he blamed, in this huge blog post, he blamed Saudi Arabia for targeting him because of his stake in the Washington Post.
And that's because, right, I was just going to say, Bezos is the owner of the Washington Post. The Washington Post has been hammering Saudi Arabia for several years for a number of issues. And all of a sudden this pops up and he slams the Saudis and says they're responsible for hacking his phone. What does he just say it because he's angry? I mean, did he have any proof? Obviously not, right?
Well, yeah. Basically, what they did is Bezos blamed Saudis for leaking the news of his extramarital affair to the National Enquirer, but over which the Saudis obviously have vehemently declined, and they said that this is actually absurd.
Right.
Even AMI, which is the owner of the National Enquirer, declined and said that there's only one sole source to this news, and that is Michael Sanchez, who happens to be Lauren Sanchez, aka Jeff Bezos's girlfriend, her brother. So the Saudis had no part to play with it.
So Bezos's girlfriend. I mean, first of all, he's having an extramarital affair. He's married, right? He's having this affair, and the best way to distract from an affair is to create a controversy and blame it on the Saudis, who your newspaper has been the Washington Post has been beaten up for 3 years. So nobody focuses on the extramarital affair. But we discover, right, this week, it comes out that in fact, it's the brother of the girl that he was having an affair with. What did he do?
Well, basically, the news that her brother was involved has always been bubbling up, but the fact is that last week in a tell-all book, author Brad Stone wrote a book on Jeff Bezos, and in it he confirms the long-standing truth that Saudi Arabia played no part in the leak. And so after that, we saw these flurry of articles that usually would be against and going against Saudi Arabia. None of these big newspapers, including the Bezos-owned Washington Post, actually retracted or corrected the claims before that said that actually Saudi Arabia had no part to play.
I want to use a gesture that a friend of mine had made. An Oprah Winfrey question. Are you kidding me that nobody in the U.S. media wrote this story? Just the Arab News and just the Arab News?
Well, no, there are a handful of Western media outlets that wrote it, including the Daily Mail and the New York Post,
but not the Washington Post, right?
But not the Washington Post, nor the New York Times, nor the Guardian, which actually first broke the story of the leak. So as you can see, there is some form of Western media bias when it comes to covering Saudi Arabia specifically.
Does it appear like it was, I mean, the fact that they won't report on what the actual truth is of a story that was so politically charged a year and a half ago, does that suggest maybe they just only cared about using this as a political aspect? Did you get that sense or response from anybody that this is all about politics, not truth, to the Washington Post and the U.S. media?
Well, yes, actually, one of the people that I interviewed, a communications consultant, actually stated how Western media we've seen this time and again where this Western media has had this inherent bias when it comes to covering the Middle East and specifically when covering Saudi Arabia. This happens either by blatantly headlines stating so, or the fact that something called as a U.S. media watchdog, All Sides, told me that this is a bias by omission, where these news sites, rather than take the time to tell all sides of the story in the sense of showcasing every single follow-up that happens afterwards, just decide not to post anything, and with that, just keep the news as it was before. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So here we have the Washington Post leading the charge, throwing mud, just stopping. They haven't even till this moment, right? They haven't reported it.
Yes, exactly. And don't get me wrong. Now, I want to say that Washington Post is still one of the top news websites in the world, to be honest, with regards to its coverage. But when it comes to things like these, where you have a conflict of interest, where the owner of the newspaper itself is part of this scandal, and it comes out that he used his role actually to twist and turn his own narrative and blame a foreign country for something that it had nothing to do with, is something that goes against the codes of conduct that even the Washington Post pushes onto other news outlets and pushes onto journalists itself.
Did you talk to anybody?
It's worth talking about.
Did you talk to anybody at the Washington Post or the union, the reporters union there?
No, I have not. No one got back to me, actually.
Of course not. But I'll tell you what, if it were to promote Jeff Bezos' Amazon business with the wealthiest person in the U.S., one of the most influential papers, it would seem reflection of strength would be the ability to report on your flaws. And yet all we've seen in the media here is it's easy to report on the easy stuff and not so easy to report about the difficult stuff. What's the follow-up on this? Is there anything more that we're waiting for on in this story, or is this all of it that's come out? Is there another shoe that's going to drop, you think?
Well, it could possibly happen because for now, only an excerpt of Brad Stone's tell-all book has been released. That was released to the Bloomberg Business Week. So the actual book might contain more. We also have seen Saudi State Minister of Foreign Affairs, State Minister for Foreign Affairs, Adel Jubeir, calling and demanding a formal apology from Jeff Bezos for conjuring up this narrative.
He deserves it from the media. What about the New York Times? You'd think the New York Times would jump on it. Did they write anything at all?
No one has. Wow. The last articles that we've, after a 2-week monitoring period by Arab News and my team, we've actually come up with the only articles from the New York Times and the Washington Post regarding this specific story were from 2020. Wow. January 2020.
Wow, that was the last time. It must have been obvious after they reported it that there was something wrong with all this. I wonder if we can get back to the real news that Jeff Bezos was having an affair and maybe interview her. Have you tried to reach out to her or the brother?
We wanted to focus solely on the fact that this is a media angle.
Right,
we have nothing
right.
against Jeff Bezos.
I
We have
understand.
nothing against Lawrence Sanchez, nor the Washington Post, nor anyone. We're just stating the fact that this is news at the end of the day. And if you're going to carry news, you carry it from the start to the end. You don't just carry it halfway through and then just decide not to end it because it just happened to go against your owner.
Yeah, that's a fascinating story. And I know that you just have a story right there now on the ArabNews.com. If people want to read it, it's titled "How the Inconvenient Truth of Jeff Bezos' Fabricated Phone Leak Story Revealed a Deeply Rooted Media Bias Against Saudi Arabia." And even though, we're Saudi, but the point is that if they can do this with Saudi Arabia, the Washington Post can do this with anybody. The American media can do this with any topic. They could do it with the Israel-Palestine conflict topic. If they don't like the way the story is going, they can just kind of say, don't write that, or soften it, or marginalize it, or, let's not be too tough when we push that. Any final thoughts, Tarek, on this? And again, I was telling our last guest, I wish we had 4 hours of a radio show because this story deserves hours. There's got to be so much good stuff. Any final thoughts?
I just wanted to say that basically, it's really up to the media to really showcase things the way they are. And if we're not doing that, then we really aren't doing our jobs. And again, we're all on the same team. We're all here to report the news as it is. And we have nothing against anyone, really. We're just showcasing the fact that a bias exists. And we need to understand that our readers need to understand that a bias exists that people need to really look out for.
I enjoy your reporting, and I always, I know I can rely on it. It's very accurate. It's very hard-hitting. It's very tough, but it's always right to the factual point. Tarek, thank you so much. Tarek Ali Ahmad, and he's with the Arab News. You run a special division over there, don't you, from the London Bureau?
Thanks, Ray. Yes, I do. Actually, I'm currently heading the Arab News Research and Studies Unit, which was launched late last year, where we host a bunch of webinars. We publish research reports, we engage in panels as well as deep dives. It's really one of the growing Arab news sections that I really encourage our readers to visit.
All right, we'll follow at arabnews.com. I'm Ray Hanania. We are at the end of the show. I want to say thank you to everybody. And we'll be back next Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. CST. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.